And welcome to another episode of They Say. I know this is very interesting because I've gone back to my roots of doing it remotely, but we're going to have some special guests that are all over the world that we're going to be able to do some remotely again. So I'm pretty excited about that. Again, my name is Allison McFarlane, founder and CEO of Allison McFarlane Inc. And today I have this superstar, rock star. Oh, she's all the things. All the things. She's definitely someone I deeply, deeply admire. I love her work ethic. I love what she stands for. I love what she represents. I feel like there's always that person that you need to have that's farther along in their race that you can mark yourself. Be like, okay, that's what I want to be when I grow up. So I am honored to have Miss Rasheeda Liberty herself here on They Say. Thank you for saying yes to me. You could be doing anything on a Wednesday night, but you're on this podcast with me. So I just want to thank you. Yes. I'm honored. You're the best.
Thank you. Happy to be here. My son had a spring game today. Ooh. So I didn't realize it was being rescheduled for today, but we made a pivot.
Okay, awesome. Oh yeah, because that's our next superstar.
Yes, absolutely.
We love it. So Rasheeda, I would love to give like this fabulous introduction, but there's so much about you that I love. So I want you to really hone in on who Rasheeda Liberty is because you're so many things.
Oh my God. Okay, so. I look at my life in what I call 4 F's.
Okay.
The first one being faith. So I'm a very God-fearing individual, very spiritual, very faith-based in everything I do, very meditation, scripture, just knowing and loving God first.
Yeah.
Secondly, I'm a family woman. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a niece, and all of those wonderful things. A mother of 2. And I have a husband who also is a coach. So we are very, very busy in our space, but I also have my parents that I'm kind of that middle. I'm squares in the middle. So I'm an only child, but I'm the person that has to take care of my family while also kind of looking out for my parents who are also in that phase of their life where they're needing more of me. So family is very important to me, very centered around family. And then I get into the nitty gritty of what I call finance. And that's how do I actually support the lifestyle that I love? I sit on boards of directors. I've been a previous nonprofit leader. I also had work in external affairs for Amazon, one of the largest global entities of this world.
Yes.
And external affairs can be, if you understand what external affairs is, you understand that it is very pressing, a lot of work, a lot of last minute, a lot of relationship basis. So I've been charged with that work for my company. I've been there for 8 years. And if you know Amazon culturally, to be at Amazon for 8 years, I'm considered a lifer. Only 5% of the company has been there longer than I have. So that's a lot.
Wow.
And then I also, I'm a finance professional by trade, but I do work, like I said, in that external affairs space. I know enough to be dangerous in all aspects. Call myself a Renaissance woman. But my passion is being an NFL agent, a sports agent, the real Jerry Maguire type, and doing that work. If you ask me what my passion is and what I could do full time, without a doubt, if I had the option to do, I would definitely be very full time focused in the NFL world. And then my fun is my F, and that's where I get my love, my passion for serving my communities with my beloved sorority, Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, but also as a board member, professional advisory board member of St. Jude Children's Hospital. So that's my fun.
Man, that all excellent. Like I'm at a loss for words. So let's kind of unpack that. And I think I want to start with football first, because you are one of the few percentages of women who are actually NFL agents. So I want to know what got you started on that road. Why the NFL? And after being in corporate, just kind of tell us about this.
Yeah. So it really started to come to light probably a couple years before everything transpired with George Floyd.
Yeah.
And I would say my husband has been a football coach the majority of our marriage, either in high school, college, or professional. He coaches college now. And I always seen young men come in and out of our lives because if you're a coach, you're a mentor, you're a dad, you're always advising. And I would jump into a lot of those advising situations, and also, beyond cooking, celebrating holidays for young men. And so I always mentored and just taking good care of a young men and giving them good, solid advice under my husband's coaching umbrella. Well, he said, you need to take that negotiation prowess that you have in that corporate world and tie it to these young men in a special way. And that's what made me drive and being an NFL agent. I started pursuing it in 2018.
Okay.
My first draft class player is 2019 and is still playing. He plays in the CFL. After 3 years, he played in the NFL and then went to the CFL. He's on year 7.
Oh, wow.
So he is our lifer, and I've been going ever since. So
I love that. I love that. So you got the firsthand experience of the draft then, and got to go and get your players.
No, I believe it or not, I have never been in the green room of the draft.
Really?
They changed over the years of what the draft looks like.
Okay.
And so what the draft looks like on day one, you're usually going to get the guys who are designated as day one for sure that are invited to be a part of the draft. Other guys can come through invitation or special option or whatever.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the draft really focuses on really those top 25 guys that are across multiple boards, across multiple teams that kind of get invited to the physical draft. So you don't see a lot of our players, there's 270 some players drafted. And then the post-draft, what we call undrafted free agents and rookie minicamp invites, that's another 600 guys. So draft goes well beyond what you see on television. I'll say that.
Wow. So let's talk about this 1% in the room of the draft room. So we did see a particular, I am a huge Deion Sanders fan. I love him. I love his family. I love what he represents. I feel like we need more fathers that really understand the importance of building up their children.
Yes. Excellent dad.
Oh my God. Amazing. So when we think of branding and marketing, why, not necessarily why, but what could have been done differently so his son wouldn't have fallen so low? And he still got drafted, so we're excited about that. But what, based off of his branding and his marketing, what advice would you give to a young adult looking to get into it?
What I would say is so the draft process starts probably throughout that last senior year. So that last year playing collegiate football. And so what happens in that process is that the NFL has several, I won't call them hurdles, but several steps where a player has to be seen.
Yes.
Number one, you need to deliver on the field.
Yep.
Number two, it is in my world, of course, I'm an agent, so I'm going to be biased. It's important to have an agent.
Yes.
It's important to have an agent.
Okay.
Because agents have to have that connection with the teams to know what's on the ground.
Okay.
And unfortunately, players, although they may try to have those discussions, it's like going to court without an attorney.
Okay.
And so when you say I represent myself, that's how you're treated with an organization that has representation for 95% of their players.
Yes.
They're represented for a reason. And so they're not going to have some of the detailed conversation. They can't be the buffer. You can't understand what's happening. So I think having representation is important.
Yes.
Once you get representation, there's also, as I talked about, those steps where the NFL has to see you and where you have to be proven.
Okay.
In this particular situation, there were a couple of showcases where it's like, let me show you who I am. I am who I believe I am. Yes. You've seen my tape from college, but I'm going to show you who I am when I go to the bowl game. I've been invited to a top bowl game. I'm going to perform there. This is your first opportunity to see me with different players in a different mix and showcase what I can do consistently. That's what players do.
Okay.
Secondly, they go to combine, not just to interview, not just to do their physicals, but they go to combine with a plan. And that plan is usually selling yourself with your words, but also selling yourself with how you perform on the field. So you have to get dressed out and actually perform in the combine, unless there's an injury or something to that matter. Once you get invited to your own pro day hosted by your conference, you should do the same. So there's Big 12 Pro Day in Dallas. All 32 teams, televised, big visibility. It's time to show who you are on the field.
Right.
And test. And now it gets to your pro day.
Okay.
You have to test.
Okay.
So in all four of those aspects, showcasing, testing, all of those pieces were missing. It's not, and unfortunately, the way the NFL works, sometimes they don't just go by your college tape. They have to see you outside of your element.
Okay.
And I think that was a question for some of the teams. And then when you're, I think the news, the media, the branding, et cetera, can also hype you to believe that you're a first round draft pick, but you always got to know what the NFL is thinking.
Right.
And I can post all day that my guy is a first round draft pick, and my friends and followers and family believe it. But when the decision makers in that room, the agent knows what they really think.
Yeah.
And so that's where the gap is. Marketing doesn't get you to the league. You can't agent your way into the league. You have to play your way into the league.
Oh, I like that. So you still got to play.
You got to play. You got to deliver on the field. An agent, I get guys who call me all the time. I'm like, hey, can you help me just get into the league? I can't agent you into the league because you got to give me a product to work with. So if you ran poorly, you weren't a team captain, you have character flaws and issues that we have to overcome. You didn't deliver, you didn't have production. You can't be coached. Yeah. No teams are really seeing you. You put all of that package together, and it's like you didn't appear in a bowl game. You didn't meet all of these hurdles. Yes. I can't just pick you up and say, look at this guy. He's great. You haven't been able to demonstrate that. So you're not giving me a package to sell.
Okay, that's good to know, because with the marketing background, people swear that we're out here turning water into wine. So that's
you make what I say the agent life is like is encouraging. Another agent told me this when he told me you won't be ever agent a player into the league. That your sales pitch doesn't get them. The sales pitch gets them to turn on the tape.
Yeah.
So when they push the button, what do they see?
What do they see?
You cannot be like, just because I love you. There are a lot of front offices that love me.
Yeah.
Like, we'll pick up the phone, we'll answer every call. And then when you start talking about your player, they're like, he's slow, he's inconsistent, he has a character issue. Right. He doesn't pass NFL investigations, he's short, he's fat, Yeah. I heard he told his coach off. I heard his mom is hard to work with. Like, you hear all of these things. They may love me to death as an agent, but that does not make them pick up that player for their Super Bowl.
Okay, so wait, I have another question, because you just said something about moms. So I can kind of fall under that helicopter mom, supposedly. I don't know what they're talking about. But I heard you say that, and I kind of want you to unpack that just in a professional setting and what that looks like and how important that is for that parent to have the balance. Because I think Jaden Daniels' mom said it best. She's like, she is not running his life. And I love her. She's bad.
Yeah. I think she gets a bad rap, and that's unfortunate. But there is parental support.
Yes.
I have a son that plays football. But what I don't do at his wonderful, since I've been in this agent world, I can kind of see where it works and where it doesn't work, because we have all different kind of moms.
Right.
And so where I've seen it work best and where I've seen the young man be the most mature and handle his business, I'm role modeling that behavior now for my 17-year-old. So I don't speak for him.
Yes.
I don't even get on a 3-way call with him.
Okay.
I'm not talking in the background for him. He asked for what needs to happen, what is he thinking, and I help him brainstorm and articulate, because a grown man can't have his mama speaking for him.
Right.
Like, you are a 20-some-year-old young man that went all the way to college with a whole coaching staff.
Right.
Had to navigate your grades, had to navigate women, because they're definitely doing that, and did all of these things. And you got to come back and have your mama talk for you?
Right.
Not a man.
Okay.
So there's a level of immaturity sometimes when we don't let our children advocate and be their own voice. And so I exercise that now with my son and understanding what good looks like versus what poor raising looks like. And poor raising is lack of empowerment of your children to be their biggest advocate themselves. Will I support you? Absolutely. But you will own and navigate these spaces with my support from the background as you need it. I won't be doing it for you.
That's good.
Because I'm raising a full grown man.
Hey.
A full grown man.
As my daughter would say,
I'm not picking out your wife for you. I'm not getting in your marriage. I'm not, you know, and the other thing is when the National Football League gets in play, mamas are zero impact. So if you can't call them, then you probably shouldn't be able to call the agent that much. That's where the issue is, right? Okay. It's like you respect the coaching staff on the college level, you respect the coaching staff at the NFL level, you respect the NFL front office, but you don't respect the agent in that space. We got to really think about how we're empowering our young men. Okay, I went on a whole speech, but
no, that was great. That was great.
I've seen what good looks like.
Yeah,
and I mean, we have some moms in the agency that are excellent. Their sons, and they exercise excellence. They may ask questions or they may have questions, but they use their sons to empower those questions. And where it's like, hey, do you want me to kind of walk through that with your mom? Yeah, can you walk through that with my mom? Excellent relationships.
That's powerful. So I like something that you said, and I want to go deeper into it. So you kind of highlighted the women, but we kind of pushed past that. But I really want to talk about the importance of that, especially in that NFL, NBA, entertainment world, how one decision can, you know, either make or break your career. So definitely unpack that.
Yeah. So I think the biggest risk to our young men right now, and this is dangerous to say, but it's really how they interact with women.
Yes.
And respect women. And I don't even want to just put it towards women, right? Because some of our players, not my players that I know of, have, but some players do have alternative lifestyles. So it's about partnership, right?
Yes.
And so I think how they engage with their partners or intimacy, how they protect themselves, because there are predators.
Yes.
Deep predators and predatory behavior in this industry.
Oh, yeah.
And you get players saying, no, I think she just likes me for me. Tell her that you're going to quit the NFL today and that you decided that you're going to go into a singing career, and watch how quickly that relationship shifts. Oh, she found me when I was in college. I wasn't nobody then. Yes, you were. She knew you were going to be somebody.
Yep.
She attached onto that. And she attached tighter when she saw that it was going somewhere.
Right.
So I think watching their behaviors and then watching casual relationships where it's like, hey, it's just one night, we just having fun. That can end up being a baby. That can end up being a sexual assault accusation.
Yes.
That can be somebody's wife. That can be somebody's underage child.
Right.
So being very careful with how the relationships are managed, I think is the biggest risk to our clients.
I love that. And that's so good. So how do you guys, because I know I've had the pleasure of collaborating with you and kind of seeing how you interact with your players and how you put them forward. How do you really set your players apart? Because they're very polished, very articulate young men, the ones that I've had the pleasure of meeting. And I feel like, and you know this, my agent stories, I've had many conversations with other agents and they're Googling while we're talking. And I'm like, wait, why don't you know about your client? So what do you do differently, Rasheeda, where it feels like home?
Yeah, we do create what we call a sense of family. And so we go through a very thorough intake process with our clients. When we take them in or decide that we're going to sign them, there's a process where they meet our full team. Our full team even kind of endorses with a yay, nay, and sometimes we're split. And I will say times when we were split, I probably should have listened more.
Okay.
Because I'm the ultimate decision maker.
Yeah.
But they meet with all of our team. They have interactions with our intake process that kind of gets you into the details of knowing them.
Mm-hmm.
This is where they share some of the deepest, more less open things about themselves,
Yeah.
which helps us form connection, because
Yeah.
now I'm like, okay, we're building trust. So there may be some things that we double click on. I'm like, tell me about that. Tell me about
Mm-hmm.
this. So we deal with understanding traumas, understanding secrets, understanding those kind of things. And that builds kind of a sense of relationship and trust, because they'll never hear that information again.
That's powerful.
And I think that I like to know the full person. I want to know from the coach's angle. I want to know from NFL investigations. I
Okay.
want to know from all front offices the notes that they have on them. And sometimes when I pick up on something that a team knows, I'll go and double click on that and say, I need to know more about that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, he has he smokes a little weed. He has a couple baby mamas. Okay, I'm gonna find out about that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they got on record that you smoking. Where are you smoking weed?
Yeah.
I'm like trying to be. Where's these baby mamas? Because you don't have them on your timeline. So tell me more about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they usually tell us a lot of that in their intake process. But I think understanding what makes up the full man helps you understand his why. And so what I'm trying to do is always build what's your why, because that allows me to fight in the spaces for you and agent you or close the gap on things that people say or think about you. So yes, he grew up in a hard life, Yes, he didn't have a dad in his life, right? His dad was in his life. He said he wanted to be a better dad. Oh, he got 2 kids out of it. Oh, he may smoke a little bit. Oh, he may fight on the field. Like, I kind of now understand the full person to really advocate for him in a special way. I will never be an agent Googling my client. Never. I know their family. I know their likes. I know what they don't like most of the time. Sometimes I'm surprised because I'm like, well, I signed you up for that. And they're like, I don't want to do that. But when they do it, it's a new experience for them.
Right.
But it is like it's just how I manage them.
I love it. And I can appreciate that, because I think it goes beyond football. And that's something that I can honestly say is someone kind of outside looking in, and just the different interactions. It goes beyond football. And I think a lot of people forget that there's life outside of football. So why is that so important? Like, legacy seems to be a thing for you. Why is legacy so important?
I think when I look back at my why I established the agency, it was about changing the trajectory of young men. And I always favored HBCU players in this space, because it's like just skillful players, developed players that are sometimes left behind because of they go to that kind of school or with those coaches, right? And so I think about, how do I change the trajectory in that space? But how do I change the trajectory for all young men that are trying to pursue? So if you think about that why, you are establishing legacy, because you can look back and say, I put generational wealth. I was a part of solving a generational wealth gap for that young man that's going to open up opportunities. If he just plays 1 year in the league, he's already made a cool million. So that's more than some people make over several years, right? He's with less than 1% of the country making over 100,000 a year. If I can figure out how to get him that million, even for 1 year, I've changed some things in his family dynamic. And that's my why. That's my legacy.
I love that. So that brings me to a generational wealth question, because I feel like oftentimes us, especially in the African American and minorities, we don't understand the importance of generational wealth and how one decision can change the trajectory of a family. And I like that you said that. So when you sit down with these players, I know you have some that are involved in other opportunities outside of football, but how do you help them know, hey, this is the right thing for you to do? And how do you help them understand the importance of legacy building?
Yeah. So what we do usually in that year 1, I always say, just focus on making the team.
Okay.
I don't want you to do anything but just make the team, brother. Because if you make the team, That's your focus. Year 2, now we're trying to brand build. Like, how do I connect you to resources and things like that are going to build your brand? And this is for those guys that are kind of late round draft or free agents that are signed, right? Because they really are in the fight for their life to make the team and to make the 53-man roster. Right. And that's 5th round on. Anybody 5th round or lower, you are not deemed a starter. So you automatically are fighting. And so make the team. Then year 2 is more about that brand building, to getting you out, because the chances there's a history that says you won't last longer than 2 years in the league if you are a late round or PFA or undrafted free agent. Okay. And so I know I got a short time to kind of make you more than football.
Yeah.
And so that's when we start talking about what are your dreams? What are your passions? Do you like kids? Do you have a degree? What is your degree in? Or how do you want to utilize them? What is your dream? When you make your first, one of our intake questions, you make their first $200,000 check. Mm-hmm. What do you do with it? And if you tell me a car, I'm gonna be like, no.
Or some jewelry?
No. A house, no, a house, 200,000 ain't gonna buy you much of a house, right? And so we kind of help them level set, and then we set them up with financial advisors and things like that to help them stretch their wealth. But I like to know their why. Once they've achieved, now what? And that's kind of our discussion.
So we've spent a lot of time on your agent life. I definitely want to talk about something that is also important, and I feel like we need to touch on more, is how your philanthropic side. You have such a huge philanthropic heart. I was so honored to see that you were the first person to raise $1 million for St. Jude. So just kind of unpack that, Rasheeda, because that's like unheard of.
Yeah. So in my capacity, so the Divine Nine organizations have always supported St. Jude. Mm-hmm. And what I wanted to do was do something special as Sigma Gamma Rho approached their centennial year, their 100th year. And it was like, hey, all the other orgs and all these other factions support St. Jude, but there's never been a pledge and a commitment. So how do we make that pledge and commitment and do it? And so we made a pledge for $1 million, and I thought it would take us 2 to 3 years. We beat the timeline. And once you rallied the troops behind it, it was through walk runs, through philanthropic giving, through all kinds of things we did. And we were able to, when you think about raising money for an entity of St. Jude's caliber, you think of, oh man, it's all about saving kids with cancer. Yes, it is. However, I knew that Sigma Gamma Rho is an organization of 7 educators. So I wanted our funds to go towards leadership development with our, because once I teach youth how to be philanthropic, it keeps the legacy going with St. Jude. So we formed, through our Roar Club, we formed different boards across the country and internship opportunities. So they connected to St. Jude. So it's a gift that keeps giving. They raise money as well, their own fundraising. And then I wanted to rename the graduate lounge for Sigma Gamma Rho's name. So every time the graduates or people who are studying at St. Jude in medicine, they can go sit in that lounge. They're reminded of Sigma Gamma Rho. And who is that? Yep, 7 educators at Butler University paved the way for this great organization. So did a lot of work with St. Jude and continue to do.
Yes, because you're on the board. You're on the advisory board, right?
Yes.
So talk about that, because I feel like that's something that a lot of women don't understand, the importance of being on these larger organizations' boards.
Yeah,
visibility and just the connectivity really go into that.
Yeah, the CEOs of a lot of the CEOs or COOs of a lot of major organizations and companies sit with me on that board of directors, whether it be Chili's, Domino's, Fortnite, the designer of Fortnite, the video game, AutoZone. And so I'm sitting with those chiefs. I mean, these are the guys that fly the private planes into the board meeting, and I'm just getting off of a commercial flight. But anyway, those guys have been great to work with, because it's a great partnership, and to learn what they're doing with their industry and learn how they grew. Well, so part of their work too is making sure, like in Chili's example, Chili's built a whole facility on the campus, called it like the Chili's House. I can't remember the exact name, but they built it, and it's where patients stay.
That's
their
so cool.
family stay. And I'm sure they provide food and things like that, but they got crayons and, they color the pepper and all of that
Yeah.
the wonderful things that Chile does. And I'm like, now how do I do that? So I'm watching that CEO, he sits with me and I'm watching how he rallied
Yeah.
all of those restaurants across the country to be big givers, and also the patrons who come in and say, I'll round up. And I'm like, that's how you grow philanthropy. Small gifts is what I learned at St. Jude also. Small gifts are usually the biggest wins for St. Jude. It's not the multi-million-dollar givers that make it one of the largest entities to receive philanthropic gifts. It's the small givers at $20 a month, $10 a month that make the difference for St. Jude. So I just love it. I love the organization. I love seeing my fundraising and my work in action every time a building goes up or a child is saved.
That's so beautiful. And I have to say this as someone that joined Sim Gamma so long ago. What you did for visibility of Sim Gamma, for just visibility, connectivity. Like I remember I came in 2004 and I pledged in LA. So most people were like, when I told my parents I was going to be a Sim Gamma, they're like, what is that?
What is that?
Right. They're like, what is that, Allison? And why did you pick that? And I was like, let me tell you about the ladies I met. They were just so powerful and strong. But to get the vice president of these United States to come to Boulé, man, and not just get there, that's your friend. Like, this lady is amazing. So I just want to commend you for that, because man, you have really taken Sim Gamma in a different direction. And I was happy to see you go, because now we get to like pull on you more and spend time and ask all kinds of questions. But truly, just talk about really, because you came in, if I'm not mistaken, during Centennial, right? Like you were
in 2020. I came in during COVID.
Okay.
So you can imagine how hard that was.
I can, but just to see the structures and what has been implemented is amazing.
Yes. I came in 2020. I'll probably be the first and the last, maybe, president to be inducted virtually into the office of Grand Bachelors. It was very interesting, to say the least, because we were in the middle of the pandemic and thinking and headed towards our centennial. So we would even be able to be in person. What was it going to mean to our financial structure? Some of the first things to go is voluntary dollars when you're trying to figure out whether you're going to live or die. So I knew we were in a crisis. But in that, some huge wins, turned over the greatest reserve that Sim Gamma has ever achieved financially. And so we have, oh my God, I raised over $5 million in corporate gifts. Received the honorary degrees for our founders, which is historical. Introduced, been in the president's chambers more than enough. At that time, President Biden, as well as Vice President Kamala Harris, in the White House several times. Been to their Christmas parties, Black History Month events, and then having the pleasure to go out of office by introducing Vice President Kamala Harris to the organization at our public meeting. So I've seen and achieved so much in that capacity, in that role.
Yes.
I feel like it was just transformational. I look back, I'm like, how did I do all that stuff? We went to Africa and sold gifts all over the world. Just so many visions, so many great people. And I know I'm saying but it was just an amazing team of leaders, from our international headquarters to our regional leaders, to all of our partners and all of my national chairs that just got behind a vision and made some great stuff happen. So excited about the work we did.
It was huge. I told you that public meeting changed my daughter's life. I've been telling, like, I had her like set. I was like, you're going to be Sim Gamma. You're going to be Sim. You don't have a choice. I was definitely that mom. But as she got closer to this college, I was like, okay, let me let her figure it out a little bit. I'll just be over here. I'm not going to touch. And I was like, well, let's go to the public meeting. And she's like, oh my God, Mom, this is amazing.
It was. So, and I always think about, in our that was not one of our better public meetings, even though we had Vice President Kamala Harris. But usually our public meetings are awesome, but we had to upset the apple cart a lot with our public meeting, because we did have a very important visitor that disrupted that space a little bit. But It is. It was just great to go out of office in the city of Houston, and then now sit in the past grand seat where I can kind of look and go, yeah, it's not easy.
Oh, I'm not jealous between you being an agent, a mother, a wife, and then the head woman in charge of the sorority. No, I'm not jealous. I'm not jealous. Oftentimes, and that brings me to a great question. Oftentimes we see the greatness of people, but we don't understand the sacrifice. So talk to us about how you really balance that sacrifice.
I think there's a couple sacrifices. The biggest one, like when I think about faith, like my 4 F's, right? Faith, family, finance, and fun. I think faith, I think it challenges you. I think I grew closer in my faith because I'm asking for the right assistance from above to help me make the best decisions that are not personal, but are really in light of my faith walk, right? That really speaks, because Rasheeda Liberty would have did a lot of things, but I had to make sure that it was lined up. So I think the faith walk you grow closer. But the things that I would say were probably like where I felt personal deficit was in the work life.
Yes.
Also home life.
Okay.
Because I missed a lot.
Yeah.
Like I missed a lot. Even we made it work, but I was not as full on as I wanted to be. And so one of my commitments that I started to make as I got really deeply into the work, I said, when I'm with my husband, I'm with my husband. So if we're going on a couples trip, we're going on vacation, I'm not doing semi-annual work. I'm not sacrificing. I'm not getting on nobody's screen. I'm not doing anything. I'm with my husband. If I'm at my son's game, I'm not taking a conference call in my ear. I was doing that. And at first, I'm like, no, I'm going to enjoy his game. My daughter, I had the opportunity to go to the White House on May 17th. 2024. My daughter was finalizing her wedding gown fitting in New York. And this would have been my last visit as national president to the White House with President Biden. And I said, you know what? He's going out of office. I'm going out of office. I'm going to sacrifice, and I'm going to go and be with my daughter. Wow. This is very important. This is a once in a lifetime, and I got to live with her for a long time if I'm not that fitting. And so I took them to New York for her last fitting, her and her bridesmaids. And it was one of the best decisions I made. Now, when I got back home, what I did have was a letter certified from the White House from President Biden that said he appreciated me making that choice. He apologized that he did not get an opportunity. He hopes my daughter's wedding is. I was like, oh, you can't beat that. You know, it worked out. But I think those sacrifices in family and then work, you don't progress in your work or your career when you are bogged down with distractions externally, because you can't dedicate full on mindset sometimes to the work. So I think I could have been a lot further in my career without the distraction, but I'm in a good place in my career. I'm 8 years in. I'm doing well, you know, and maybe it wasn't meant for me to be the right hand of our president.
Okay.
The company.
I love that. So as we kind of come to a close, I want to ask you, if you could speak to your younger self, what would you say?
I would say, do it afraid. Do it afraid. I didn't learn that until I was further along in my career. That my work, would you bet on yourself? You know, and I don't think I learned to bet on myself until the year of 2017.
Wow.
A very transformative moment in my career where I was like, I'm about to bet on myself. I'm quitting. I'm gone.
Wow.
Yeah. And I guarantee I will find something. And probably within 3-4 days after we submitted my resignation, I got the interview opportunity with Amazon. I've been with them ever since. So I walked out and I was like, I'm gonna have to quit. I'm gonna bet on myself. I don't need to be here anymore. Right. This is not good for my space. And high performer, making a ton of money, big notoriety, and just closed the book and said, I'm gonna go a different direction. I think I would have done that a lot earlier. Bet on yourself.
I love that. I love that. And I think that's something that I think my generation, so I'm in that millennial space. I see us kind of doing that more. Some of us a little bit more reckless than others, but I definitely see us not taking the traditional paths of our parents. So that bet on yourself, that's like music to my ears.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
do it. Just do it.
let's do it.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that. So finish this sentence for me. They say I couldn't, but I did it anyway. Which
Operate in spaces that weren't designed for me.
mm,
Um, weren't designed for me to be successful. So whether it be in hard line operations and building facilities, whether it be negotiating a transaction to move a portfolio of business, IMS, the IMS pet food brand
mhm.
from Procter and Gamble to Mars did
Wow.
it. Uh, discovering a technology that is now used worldwide for what was used for combos is now used for Temptations cat food.
Oh wow.
That technology that was used for combos, watching it being used,
Wow.
and seeing commercials and brand building for pedigree dog food that I helped build, still be relevant in the market. Seeing, oh God, Wrigley Gum, so many brands and ideas that I helped create that I walk in a store and I'm like, I remember we first negotiated that. I remember when this happened. And that wasn't meant for a Black female in finance.
You're right.
That was not meant to be. But I
Right.
was able to negotiate and close a lot of those deals. And I'm still doing it today in the NFL world.
I love it. So, Mr. Sheet, how do we keep up with you?
I think you should follow me on Lady Lib. That's
Yeah.
with a B. Lady LIB as in boy. 1922. That's on X, and that's actually on Instagram as well. And then I am on LinkedIn. I don't use LinkedIn like I should.
Yes.
I'm not a LinkedIn girl, but
You
I am
send
on
us-
LinkedIn. And then our website, ladylib.com. So
Yes.
LADYLIB.com. That's a good way if you're interested in future interviews, appearances, being represented. We have a form on that line that says, on that website that just says contact us, and we follow up on most of our inquiries that we do receive. We direct them to the right place.
Yes, you do. Well, I want to thank you for your time. I often tell people this time is the only thing we can't get back. So I thank you for spending this time with me. I thank you for being just an amazing individual and someone that we can look up to and actually touch. So thank you for being accessible. Thank you for being willing to share your knowledge. And I'm just honored to talk with you.
Thank you.